You're listening to the Remso Republic.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another installment of what I'm hoping your favorite podcast is in the wild, ferocious, competitive sea of online news and entertainment. The Remso Republic, I'm your host, as always, based out of Lynchburg, Virginia, in the heartland of the beautiful Commonwealth. Lynchburg. I'm your host, as always, Remso W. Martinez. Welcome back for new listeners. You could not have chosen a better episode to start out with. Now, typically, I suggest you go back and listen to a couple of the more topical ones, but this is perfect. Right now, the greatest worst thing, or the worst greatest thing about living here in the beautiful state of Virginia is that we have an election every year. And wait, what did I just hear? Oh, yep, people screaming outside my window as they hear that. I know what you're thinking. We're several months into the Trump administration. You're still reeling over all the phone calls and the commercials and all those relatives that stopped talking to you when they found out who you were going to vote for in the 2016 general election. I'm with you. It's kind of like everyone's own personal mental Vietnam. 2016 is like that person on Facebook that you block. 2016 is like that really bad day at the DMV. 2016 is like that time you did something really stupid and a whole bunch of people had to pay for your mistake. 2016 is something we don't want to remember. But like everything else, it was a learning opportunity, especially for those in this game of competitive politics. People don't like that term, but everything is competition. Because even when you're not in an election cycle, you're still competing. You're competing for that attention. You're competing in the marketplace of ideas. You're constantly hoping that you're building yourself up for the moment that you actually need the momentum that you've built. And last year in Virginia, at least here, and I saw this in a few other states, but since it's in my backyard, things were a little rough. At Liberty University, where producer and Ryan and I currently are, we saw Governor Gary Johnson, when he was running, come to the school. He had a whole hour and a half to speak at a convocation in front of 14,000 students. Yet, he came in third place amongst Liberty University students. And I was there for his speech, folks. You can even find it online. He gave a very tailored message to his predominantly Christian conservative audience, but he still came in third place. In fact, he came in behind another independent candidate, Evan McMullen, who you remember, who didn't even show up to Liberty University. At least Johnson showed up. I'll give him that, but McMullen didn't show up. And throughout the Commonwealth, McMullen did surprisingly better than Johnson. Now, this was disappointing for me, for the most part, because even though by that point I had left the Libertarian Party, I still remember how things were in 2013 when we had, a good friend of the show, Robert Sarvis, go up against, Kenny and Terry. And I remember that in 2014, even though the results were a little bit lower, they were just as exciting. But it seems that the Libertarian Party in Virginia has been kind of downward. And in the worst election we had for the independent voter, where we had Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton running, it should have been the opportunity to get things going. Instead, some think the LPVA is dead. Some think that this is its opportunity to do great. What I have tonight is a guest who's currently the Libertarian Party of Northern Virginia chairman. He's also a former congressional candidate, and he's going to kind of talk to us about that tonight. Tell us what we're supposed to be expecting as we go into this next election. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeffrey Carson. Sir, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic, Remso. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem.
But I think you got the wrong guy, man. If you think
really?
I know what's going on, I'll do my best to explain what I know to your listeners, man. But I'm on the outside, or I was on the outside looking in, at the very least, for the Johnson folks. So
no, I hear you. I kind of have an idea of what was kind of running in internally, since everyone likes to post everything everywhere and complain about everybody else. But I'd rather have you on to talk about this, because what I hate is when I hear rumors, when I hear the whole he said, she said type of thing, when I hear, oh, well, I saw this somewhere. I want to give everyone the opportunity to hear it from, a direct source at this point. So my question is this. do people who want to vote Libertarian in Virginia have anything to look forward to in 2017, or is it just going to be like 2016 all over again? Because a lot of people are angry that there were no substantial candidates. There was no one on the ballot other than Gary Johnson in Virginia in 2016, and that should have been that was your year. That was your year. What happened?
Interesting. So I just want to make sure I totally understand. So are you frustrated with the Gary Johnson presidential campaign, or are you frustrated with the fact that no other candidates ran, like for Congress in 2016, or both? I just want to make sure I understand where.
But the whole Gary Johnson thing, that's been pounded into oblivion. I mean, that talking point's dead. I just want to talk about the state party at this point, because we had one dude running. Right. We had one dude running, but he only existed on Facebook and didn't put up a website. And then we had the other dude who, got the nomination and everything else, and then dropped out and disappeared. So there was really nobody that anyone here could have voted for.
I see what you mean. Right. Like it'd be nice if we could have gone back to 2014, for example, when you had Sarvis leading the ticket, up top. I know what you mean. Okay. Well, shoot. Why did 2016 happen? Well, obviously, no one saw, first and foremost, nobody saw Trump coming, right? Nobody knew what kind of opportunity that was going to be. I imagine if we had an inkling of what kind of opportunity that was going to be, perhaps there would have been, more of an effort to try and recruit folks. But, that's always been a challenge. I mean, 2014, when I think we had 5 across the state, 5 congressionals, and then again, Sarvis running for Senate at the top, that was an aberration. And that's not normal. That's good. Obviously, I want to see more of that, but it's tough. It is. I mean, I work in politics, man, now, and I know that you work in politics. It's tough to find good people to run for office, and perhaps even more difficult to find them to run as libertarians, because it's so difficult.
So going forward for 2017, any hope? Or is it going to be another empty year?
No, so again, I'm I play in Northern Virginia, right? So I don't play on the state at the state level, or for example, I'm not on the SCC. So I can kind of just really comment on Nova. Obviously, this is a different kind of cycle, right? Because 2017 is an off year. We're just talking about state house candidates. Obviously, in Virginia, there's going to be a statewide candidates as well: governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general. But in Nova, right, kind of where I play, it actually looks like we're going to have maybe 3 or 4 state house candidates running as libertarians, which is pretty cool. I think actually that might be a record in the Northern Virginia territory. But I'm not 100% on that, so you'd have to double check that. Now, when it comes to the rest of the state, I don't know numbers, but from what I've heard, I think it might be maybe 10, maybe 15. Right now, I think we're still waiting on a lot of folks to kind of shit or get off the pot, if that makes sense.
I gotcha.
Yeah, but again, I'm kind of out of the loop on that, to be honest. I try to focus on where I can have an impact, if that makes sense.
No, I hear you, but yeah, I just want to focus on Nova for a second.
Sure.
I mean, I'm still surprised that Barbara Comstock was able to stay on. I mean, Luann Bennett's campaign was anything but a stellar operation. And I don't want to bring him up because that's free publicity for this bro, but it seems that in Northern Virginia, I would have thought that it would be a little bit easier to run as a libertarian, especially when you have a really, really unpopular incumbent versus how it is down south. Because when you're running in, like, I don't know, Mark Peake, Tom Garrett country, that's not going to happen. Because essentially that's a Republican stronghold. But Northern Virginia, it goes blue. I mean, Joseph Stalin could be the Democratic nominee, and Northern Virginia could still vote for him. So do you think that Northern Virginia...
I was going to say, I usually say a ham sandwich.
That too. But
that, okay, point taken.
It could be a serial killer, and as long as he was a Democrat, he could still get Northern Virginia on its side.
Well, that's how broken our current electoral system is with the gerrymandering and all the nonsense. I mean, in districts that are heavily red, it doesn't matter who's on the ballot. It really could be a ham sandwich that Republican's going to win. In districts that are heavily blue, it's the same way. And unfortunately, in the state of Virginia, I think in 2015 we might have had 50 or 60 state house races go unopposed. And that's how bad it is. And across the country, when you think about congressional districts, it's even worse. I mean, I'm not kidding. It's about 85% of congressional districts. It's like 400 out of 435 congressional districts across the country are not competitive races, meaning that, like, yeah, you might have a Republican or Democrat run or a Libertarian or Independent run, but the partisan index, it's like a plus 10 or plus 15 or higher. There's just no one else other than that major party candidate is going to win that general election. And everybody in politics knows it. It's like the dirty, secret that no one wants the public to know, the general public to know, but everybody in politics knows. It's like, yeah, in 400 congressional districts across the country, it's a joke. There is no general election. It's all decided in the primaries. And that's if the primary, incumbent is even primaried by a person of their own party, which usually they're not. So it's a broken system, no question, man. Yeah. We got a lot of work to do.
Definitely. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But first, folks, we're going to go ahead and take our first commercial break. Hang on tight. You're listening to the Remso Republic. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
The voice of the Liberty Generation, Remso W. Martinez.
Take the show on the go by subscribing to the Remso Republic on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play, and YouTube. Don't be left out.
Hey guys, Tim Preuss here, and I wanted to take a minute and invite you to stop over to PreussPodcast.com and give our show a listen. We've got in-depth commentary on the issues that matter to you.
These hookers, fucking whores, are out there.
These hookers, man, I tell you.
Yeah, that's like the most contact I've had with the hooker.
Is them yelling at you.
Them yelling at me on Twitter.
We break down the most pressing issues of our time.
This large lady with, like, tight clothing on. Not appropriately linked to tight clothing either.
And we get the most intelligent analysis from friends of ours like Jeffrey Tucker.
You pulled over engine trouble, and what happened? What happened? I don't know. Oh God!
Seriously though, we love putting on a show that both entertains and educates. We're growing, and we'd be thrilled if you joined us. Check out PreussPodcast.com for more. That's PREUSS podcast.com.
Make sure to visit libertarianwingmedia.com, where you can find articles written by libertarians all over the world on all of today's issues. Check out our podcast network with monthly and weekly podcasts. Check out our Libertarian t-shirt store with t-shirts like Make Markets Free Again and Make Markets Not War. And you too can become an author at Libertarian Wing Media and write what you want when you want. Just email alexmerced@alexmerced.com. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program. We have the LP Nova chairman, Jeffrey Carson, on the show. Sir, so we kind of just covered kind of the issues we have going on, whether it was gerrymandering, whether it was people just not running for office. Coming out of 2016, looking into this new year, how is the growth of LP Nova the past year? I mean, there were so many disenfranchised independent voters. There were so many Democrats that actually just didn't show up to vote because, maybe they were Bernie bros and they didn't want to vote for, the serial killer known as Hillary Clinton. And there were a lot of other people that were just like, everyone sucks. So did LP Nova grow at all? I mean, did you guys find anything to benefit from in this election?
Well, I have to kind of caveat this because I came in and became chair towards the end of the year, probably, maybe summertime on, something like that. But I wasn't the chair, for the whole year. And so I can't really speak to, prior to that, although I will say, friends of mine have been a part of LP Nova for some time now. And a friend of mine, was running it prior to me. And by all measures, I mean, they were having a pretty good year. But I will say that, we ended the year, I think at least in terms of a record fundraising year. And yes, I mean, I can tell you we did grow, but did we grow as much as we should have? Probably not. I mean, I guess I've been chair now for, I don't know, let's call it 6 months. probably less, but let's just call it 6 months. And I'll tell you, there's just a ton. There's so much to do for a local affiliate. There's so much that a local affiliate has to figure out. Everything from, how do you square away your data, right? How do you add people and subtract people from, your list? Are you using an Excel spreadsheet, or are you bringing a nation builder? I mean, all things data, that's a huge issue. You got to figure that out. You got to figure out like fundraising. You got to figure out your websites. There's just a ton that I think current state, every local affiliate across the country is trying to figure out on their own, right? With a little, with help from the state, obviously, and in some cases maybe help from national. But what I'm trying to do, or what we are trying to do at LP Nova right now, is kind of build a model, figure out best practices from across the country, implement them here, build a model, and then basically like share it, like, hey, we think we've come up with something that makes sense. If it works for you, by all means take it, right? Here's how we do X, Y, Z, and A, B, and C. It's just easier said than done, man. It's tough. So
is the
so
biggest,
did
I'm
we
sorry
grow?
to cut you off.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say, did we grow? We should have, no. But I sure hope, we can going forward. We just have a lot of work to do.
What do you think the problem was? Was it just general outreach, or was it people in Northern Virginia? Because I think living in Nova, the Beltway area, it's incredibly hard to talk politics with everyone, because even your most politically apathetic person, the moment politics comes up, they dig into their trenches. They don't want to be convinced otherwise. Do you think it was just, a lack of general outreach, or do you think it was the fact that people just weren't interested in learning?
Well, I think your main point there, that generally in politics, people, I mean, you see it on Facebook every day, right? People don't want to be convinced that they're wrong. Nobody wants to see their worldview turned upside down, right? People just want to, generally parrot what they believe is right and try and turn others, right? Try and convince other people. I think that's par for the course across the board ideologically. But for some reason, libertarians just, I don't know, we have like an extra something. I don't know what you call it, but we always we live to argue, we live to debate, we live to, be able to, kind of prove our opponents wrong. And I think that hurts us actually when it comes to politics. I think that hurts us, from an electoral standpoint. It certainly doesn't help candidates, right, or their campaign teams when that's the focus, as opposed to, winning hearts and minds, right? Like remaining positive and trying to show people why liberty is important and why it will help them in their own lives. But I digress.
Gotcha. But yeah, to kind of step back a moment, do you think the problem is, there's just a lack of understanding of how to, utilize all this new technology, actually get something started? Because it's like people with really good intentions. I had a friend growing up in college. He wanted to sell T-shirts, where then he would take the money and he would put it towards a social project. Like he would want to build a well in Africa, or he'd want to build a playground that was free of drug addicts in Detroit, or something crazy like that. And his intentions were good, but he knew absolutely nothing about how to run a nonprofit or even run a business or anything like that. But at least he had the intention. So for a lot of people, do you think the problem is, their intentions are good, but they don't want to put the work towards it, or they're just really kind of overwhelmed by the responsibility and everything that comes with running an affiliate?
Well, I'll speak for myself here. I can tell you it is overwhelming. It's overwhelming, and I'm not a tech guy, so like I have trouble with technology, and trying to find the time is tough as well. Obviously resources, we can't compete. Libertarians can't compete with resources, or when it comes to resources, with the two major parties. So that has an effect as well. And I think the fact that, we haven't really won any, let's call it at the state house or higher races. I would say ever. I mean, if I recall, we won a state house race in Alaska about 30 years ago. But I think the fact that we don't win is a problem as well, because that hurts. That makes it much more difficult for us to really attract people in mass. I have this crazy theory that, like, if we could just get one win, like at a state house level or higher in a partisan race, the LP, good God, I feel like that could be maybe like a domino that brings so much positive, so many positive outcomes to the party in terms of resources, donors, voters, supporters, etc. But that's just a personal opinion. But look, the gist is this: it's tough, man. It's tough, and people have other things to do, and I wish it wasn't that way, but it just is. And I, as an affiliate head, man, I got to take full responsibility for that, right? But I will tell you this: like we're learning and we're getting better, we're getting faster, we're getting stronger. And like I said earlier, I hope that we can build a model here in Nova and absolutely share it with local affiliates in Virginia, and then hopefully share it across the states. But we got to build it first.
Definitely. We're going to go ahead and hit our final commercial break. Folks, we'll be right back right after this commercial break. Hang on tight.
We'll be back shortly.
Stay up to date with the latest news and updates by visiting
RemzoRepublic.com.
Hey folks, it's Remso here. I want to talk to you about Liberty on Point. The Liberty on Point podcast is a weekly podcast that examines current events and politics to determine how they affect our liberties. Liberty on Point can be found on all major podcasting apps, or if you can't find the one that maybe you want to listen to it through, you can always go to www.libertyonpoint.com. That's www.libertyonpoint.com. Liberty on Point is also a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. Go ahead, check them out, you're gonna love it, and let them know that Remso sent you. Take care.
Make sure to subscribe to all the podcasts on the Libertarian Wing Media Podcast Network on Google Play, iTunes, and Stitcher, such as the Alex Merced Cast, with interesting interviews with interesting people every week. Breaking Progressives, spending time every week breaking down left-wing narratives and showing what's real and what's fake. Economics Why Not? A weekly look at economics and applying economic principles to daily life. Better Today, a weekly podcast where we take a look on ways to improve your life and be better today. Libertarian Comments is a podcast where we play audio from the video archives of Alex Merced from his videos dating back to 2008. Liberty Public Access, a podcast where anyone can submit an episode. Submit your episodes to Alex Merced at alexmerced.com. Have you been wanting to start your own podcast? Then subscribe to Podcast and Blogging Tips and Tricks, a weekly podcast about how to host your podcast, how to produce your podcast, and how to market your podcast. We'll be adding some monthly podcasts to the lineup soon, including Make Markets Free Again, a monthly look at what's going on in markets and regulation all over the world, and the Free VST podcast, looking at free VST instruments for electronic music producers. Listen to these podcasts by going to libertarianwingmedia.com or subscribing on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play. And if you enjoy the podcast, tell your friends and leave a positive review on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play.
Everyone, welcome back to the show. We're going to wrap things up. We're going to kind of transition here. So going forward, 2017 is a brand new year. Mentally, everyone can shake off all the crap and crud from 2016. They can try and move on. I mean, it's a brand new opportunity for people to learn from their mistakes and to try and be better. So for LP Nova and, the Commonwealth as a whole, just what's the general vibe you're getting? What are some of the big goals you guys have? What are the things that you want to achieve in this brand new year?
Well, for LP Nova, I can say that, we and I will say, I'll speak for the board here because we're all on the same page here on this point. We want to really, I don't want to say transform. That's not the right word, but we want to really, kind of turn LP Nova into a vehicle that recruits and trains and supports candidates for office. LP Nova has done a lot of extraordinary things, over the last several years. I've mostly not been a part of it. I mean, obviously as a candidate, I played with LP Nova, and then I was on the board for a little bit as like an at-large member. But this is kind of my first stint with the board in a meaningful way, and it's done a lot of great things, and it has actually grown quite a bit over the last several years. And now we collectively are trying to kind of like step forward in a different way. Like we want to make this an entity that is political, and we want to help candidates, win office. It's easier said than done, no question about that. But that's where we want to focus our resources and focus our efforts. So I'm hopeful and I'm optimistic, but again, it's like we got to go do it first, right? And then we can start patting ourselves on the back,
Yeah, and I'm really glad to hear you say that. That really fills me with kind of an optimist, outlook on things, because I want to see third parties succeed. I mean, not simply the Libertarian Party. I want to see a marketplace of idea and politics. And, having worked on previous Libertarian campaigns here in Virginia, I mean, this isn't a secret. In 2015, none of the other campaigns worked together. In 2015, we had people that were part of the board that were openly attacking our candidates publicly. Things like that. We had candidates, show pictures of themselves and strippers online. It seems that everyone wants to work.
Not good.
Yeah, no, it wasn't good, because that was like 24 hours of cleanup of my life that I'll never get back.
Oh, man.
So I'm glad to hear that this is kind of, this is kind of a new direction. You guys have kind of cleaned yourselves off and you're looking for something good. But, just in terms of like marketing libertarianism in Virginia, I think it's, in 2013, 2014, you guys were vilified. The attacks I saw on the Libertarian Party candidates in 2013 and 2014 were absolutely horrific. But I think after seeing the failure that was the last Republican governor we had and everything else we had here in the state, especially with the failure that is Congresswoman Comstock here in Nova, I mean, I think people are willing to give you guys a second chance. And I was talking to someone on the street today, just, kind of getting ideas for how I wanted to ask this, but I just asked him, when you think of the Libertarian Party here in Virginia, what do you think of? And the first thing he said was, I see them as the weed guys. I'll talk about civil asset forfeiture and all they want to do is talk about weed. I'll talk about, tax reform and all they do is talk about weed. Do you guys think that you're the weed party, or do you have a certain policy goals you guys want to try and take the charge on this upcoming year?
Do I see yourself as the weed party? No, come on, man. We're not. Obviously, we're not.
Oh, obviously not.
But,
obviously
but
not.
dude, look, it's not just that. I mean, I'm gonna get some shit for this, but like, when I talk to folks about 2016, right? It's just, what is Aleppo, right? Over and over and over again, and fair or not, and I think it's unfair. Actually, I think it's unfair. But fair or not, that's what most non-libertarians, right, just kind of casual observers, think about when they think about libertarians in 2016. So there's no question, and it's not just LP Nova or LPVA, it's the LP in general, and it's libertarian candidates in general. You got to be mindful of the fact that what you choose to run on is what you're going to be remembered by, right? And that's where that's your opportunity, right, to differentiate yourself from the two, or 3 or 4 opponents that you're running against. So is that easy to do? No. You know how much time the big boys spend on messaging and trying to craft a narrative? And I mean, that's they spend lots and lots of resources on that stuff. We never do, right? We just say, well, I think I want to run on X, Y, and Z. Okay, sounds good, right? So we have a lot of work to do there. And I think we will. I will say this, going forward in 2017, I hope that we make electoral reform a big part of our strategy, because, my feeling is that Virginians and Americans across the country, but Virginians in particular, are just not happy with the current state of things. And I believe it's an educational opportunity. We can, I don't think a lot of people know, for example, that 60 seats went, unopposed in 2015, or that in Congress about 400 seats, on average each cycle are non-competitive seats. Right? I don't think people know that. I think they've heard of gerrymandering, but I think most people don't know how broken it is. And I think that we could lead on an issue like that, and that's hugely bipartisan or tripartisan, and make some headway. But that's just one. I mean, there's a number of things we could lead on that I think would be beneficial.
Yeah,
a lot of things broken out there.
Definitely. I mean, there's. I hate it when people say, "Oh, this candidate is done for. This party is done for." I don't think anything is really done for until you throw in the towel yourself. And I know, at least here in Virginia, if you and all the other candidates that showed us in 2014 that you can hit the reset button any moment now, and you might have some baggage, but you can try and charge forward if you're trying to put the work in for it. So I'm optimistic. I want to see you guys succeed. I want to see everyone succeed. I want to see liberty in Virginia and the country succeed.
Boom. I couldn't agree with you more.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, sir, to kind of wrap things up, what's your take-home message for listeners today, especially those in Virginia that are, they're a little bit worrisome about another election coming up. What's your big message you want to drive home to them?
Well, I'd say in short, what are you doing for liberty, man? And that's it, right? We all fight this good fight in our own way. We don't always agree on everything, and that's okay. Even big L libertarians don't agree on everything, obviously, and that's okay. But we're all in the movement. We all probably agree on 95%, of the direction we want to go. And we should focus on that 95%, forget about the 5%, right? And get to work. And it doesn't matter if it's in advocacy, if it's, in the nonprofit realm, if it's in politics, on campaigns, running for office. To me, it doesn't matter if it's as an R or an I or an L or even a D, right? Shit, it'd be nice to see some Liberty Democrats out there, right? Wouldn't it?
For once, yeah.
It doesn't really matter. I just feel like, get to work. Cliff Maloney, the executive director at Yale, says it really well. I forget exactly how he says it, but he's always like, what did you do for liberty today? Like, get in the game, man. Doesn't matter what you do, just get in the game, right? Learn something and get after it. And I want to parrot that because I think it's really sage advice.
That's awesome. If people want to connect with you and LP Nova online, learn how to possibly run, because you guys need people to run, and even just people that want to donate, volunteer, all that jazz, how could they do so?
lpnova.org. lpnova.org. You can get our Facebook. You can get a link to our Facebook page there. You can get a link to our meetup page, lpnova.org. And by the time this episode airs, we should have a brand new lpnova.org website, which is like clean and slick and looks good and is professional. And I'm excited about it. So
badass. Jeffrey Carson from LP Nova, thank you so much for coming on the program, sir. Best of luck. Greatly appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Renzo.
Folks, like I said, every opportunity is a new opportunity to start again. It's hard sometimes. When you lose, it's hard. When people go after you, it's hard. But as Winston Churchill once said, you have enemies? Good. That means you stood for something. And in Virginia, you get that chance all the time. We had a special election for city council the day of, Super Tuesday last May in 2016. We have all these opportunities for you to get involved. And just like Jeff said, what did you do for liberty today? Whether it's a member of the Libertarian Party, you could be a Republican, you could be a Democrat. But advancing these ideas is worth more than anything. It's worth more than just having good intentions. But what's one thing you could do? Well, you could, share the show online. You can always subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play. We're #1 in Virginia, folks. Let's keep this ball rolling. Whether it's something that you like from me, one of my guests, let's keep this momentum going. Liberty dies when you say die. Let's keep it awesome. As always, take care, be good to your neighbor, and stay awesome, America. I'm Remso W. Martinez. Good night.
Stay connected to Liberty's Rabble Rouser on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with the latest episodes, blogs, and other available content. What are you waiting for?